Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first Splinterlands Town Hall of 2025. I hope that everyone had an awesome holiday, whichever ones you celebrate, a great new year, and are ready to kind of kick things off with us for what I've talked about. Is shaping up to be potentially one of the most exciting years we've had to date in Splinterlands, pretty much since the game launched. Um, so today, unfortunately, the great Nate was not able to be with us. He had a previous engagement. Um, also, we plan to have Blaze on for future town halls, but we're going to do the ones earlier in the day because based on his time zone, it is the middle of the night for him right now. So today, it is going to be me, an investigator, entertaining you for the next couple hours. Um, perhaps that'll give us some more time for questions. For those of you who are hoping for, Nate's eye candy, I apologize that we're not going to have that. But maybe I can bug him if he has some cool stuff to throw it into Discord chat at some point at a later date. In any case, it is January 16th. It is 7 p.m. Eastern U.S. time. Um, and Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to give an overview of kind of all the stuff we talked about at the last town hall, the past couple ones, all the things we kind of have lined up for the next few months. Um, the team obviously took a bunch of time off over the holidays, and now we're back, and we spent a bunch of time meeting and brainstorming together to figure out kind of more details on all these things, exactly what we're going to do, who's going to work on them, time frames, working out issues, all that type of stuff. So I'm going to share a bunch of that with you. Um, I will turn it over to Investigator first to give the development update before I get into all that. Investi?
Well, good evening. So we did just have a small update this past week, which was mainly bug fixes. The only new feature we put out in that bug fix update was the ability to spend swap BTC for credits. So if you've got BTC that you want to put on Hive Engine, you can use it to purchase credits. Uh, for the next update, um, not a lot of big new things because we just did an update. But the two big main things that are going out are the recent passed DAO proposal, that was to pre-mint all of the outstanding SPS. So we have rewritten parts of the way the reward system works to handle a pre-minted SPS, and we plan to mint out all the outstanding 3 billion supply and put it in the appropriate pools. And we'll have the DAO will have control of the outstanding balance of SPS to do with what they will. The other cool new feature that we're going to be adding is a master volume control. So we're adding a little button on the top of the nav bar that when you press it, there'll be a slider that comes up. So you can use it to adjust your volume settings on both the app and the desktop, mobile app and on desktop. So without needing to jump through the settings screen and find the sliders for the things you want to change, it'll be a lot easier to adjust the sound volume in the game. There's some other little things with mobile cleanup. There's a couple of bugs and bad experiences that got submitted as tickets, and we have cleaned those up. And I believe that is the majority of what is scheduled right now. We are adding a couple more tooltips to try to explain credits to new users when first time they go to the shop. And one final thing we are looking at doing is for new players that purchase a spellbook for the Conclave Arcana set, we are talking about giving them 5 of the new common and rare packs, basically, whenever you buy a spellbook. That was something we had previously talked about.
Well, one of the new packs at the, they were
Yeah,
in the proposal, it was the $5 for the starter pack, but a lot of people have suggested doing,
one.
$1 packs with 5 cards instead. So if we, if
Yeah.
we go that
So
route, then it'll be 5 of them.
since Chaos Legion packs are so inexpensive, we are going to look at starting to give out 5 Chaos Legion packs with every new spellbook purchase until we cycle over until the new set or run out of the amount that we're going to put in for new spellbooks. So that'll be something nice for new users and hopefully get them a little more interested and stick around in the game. And that's pretty much what we've got right now for this Tuesday, though we are working on several larger projects that will hopefully be coming out in the next couple months, which I think Matt is going to talk about in more detail.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And as far as the Chaos Legion packs giving out with a starter pack, we've had actually an increase in the number of people buying starter packs recently, which is good. I think the work that Blaze and them have been doing has been starting to work. Um, and what some of the feedback, Royal and the customer service team has also been working, to look at what the people are doing and get feedback from new players that are coming in. And that's a lot of the feedback is like they don't see the value in the spell book and things like that. So until we get to Conclave Arcana where we can give out that starter pack, um the company has a bunch of Chaos Legion packs, and we thought it'd be good to give those out in the meantime. As far as the larger projects, there is survival mode. That's probably number one on the list to hopefully get released. That is in the development process. As soon as it gets closer, and we're confident on a release date, we will put out a post about that with the release date, and everyone can get ready for survival mode. Um, if I'm not going to go too much into the details of that because we talked about it a bunch in previous town halls, but feel free to ask questions about it at the Q&A part later if you want to talk more about it. One kind of smaller update that we're working on getting in there is kind of fixing practice mode, and that's all around our work toward making a better new player experience. Right now we have a practice option that doesn't work very well. um, and we've a lot of new players want to do that before they jump into the ranked battles. So we're planning on revamping practice mode to where it's always against a bot, and there'll be a bunch of configuration settings. You can kind of choose how you want to practice. So you can choose what level cards the bot that you play against has. So you can pick one that if you want to practice at your current level, you can do that. And then we'll have like easy, medium, hard difficulties of the bot. So it'll be like a real practice mode where you can actually practice the game. So that's a smaller change, but just one of those little things that is currently not great as far as the new player onboarding experience. Um, we are Studkev, who we have hired using the funds that we received from the Hive DAO, has been working on a mobile app that we can submit to app stores. So, and we've been also, on our end, updating, all the pages and fixing all the issues as we go through the website on mobile to make sure it looks and works well in that app. So that's ongoing. Also, don't have a release date. We don't really have a release date set for any of these things yet. Um, the big project that's going on, one of the things Investigator mentioned was updating the SPS pools as the DAO voted to mint all the SPS ahead of time into these pools that the DAO controls. So that is part of getting ready for the validator launch. I think there was an announcement just earlier today that the validator is in open beta testing at this point. So anyone with some experience running those type of things can sign up and help beta test that. But that's the last stage before release. So we are getting very close to validators. The code is published. Anyone is able to run it and test it. We have kind of a currently not too long a list of still outstanding things. Hopefully, not too many more bugs or issues come up. And in the near future, we're going to get around to the public live launch of SPS validators. And I've talked about this a bunch of times. I think that's one of the most exciting things of everything that we're doing, um, just because it really kind of is the vision that we've had for this game since the very beginning. Is open source code that anyone can run and operate independently of the company. So, it's been 6.5 years since the game first launched. Very excited to see that happen. And so that's a big project. Obviously, Investigator has been working with the Patrick's team that the DAO's hired to just work out all the kinks, deal with all the bugs that come up in testing, and figure out a plan for getting that live. I would expect there's probably going to be a long downtime one day when we make that switch over. But it should be well worth it once that's up and running. Um, Cryptomancer is recently back from his month-long vacation. We just had a catch-up call with him this morning. He is back to working on land. He is currently estimating that it will be done and ready to release in March. But that's moving forward. We've put together initial numbers on what we are planning for the production rates and the consumption rates of the new resources and grain. So that's coming along. He's making a bunch of progress. I think he's working on the trade hub now, the ability to trade not just a resource for dark energy crystals, but to be able to trade a resource for another resource, which behind the scenes will swap the one resource for dark energy crystals and then dark energy crystals for the second resource, um, all in one transaction. So again, that one we expect to be released in March. So that's, let's say 2 months away since we're in the middle of January for land 1.75. Another thing that I've also been thinking about and talking with the team about, based on, again, a lot of discussions and feedback from players, is a rework of the leaderboard, and also adding back in leaderboards for all the different leagues. So that doesn't mean that we're going to be putting the leagues back to how they were before, where there was card level limits and you could kind of choose to stay in a league. But leaving everything how it works now, we think that we can add leaderboards back, and the leaderboard you're in will just be based on the rating you started at the beginning of the season, is what we're currently thinking. So if you start at the season in Silver League, you'll compete for the Silver League leaderboard, regardless of what rating you end up with over the course of the season. And that way, so if you started Silver League, you're competing for the Silver League leaderboard, and you end up in Gold, then the next season you'll be competing in the Gold leaderboard. So that's a way that we'll be able to have leaderboards and competitions for players in all leagues, not just the top players. Um, and so hopefully that helps, make the lower leagues a little more interesting. Um, then the big one that we are focusing on ahead of the Conclave Arcana launch is the onboarding and tutorial system in the game. That's, we've heard it from players for a long time. We know that that's really important. And also we've been working with Blaze and the other two marketing consultants that we brought on. And a lot of the focus and the discussion with them is we need to figure out our onboarding process. We need to figure out, all that stuff and make it a really good experience before we can go out and really do any marketing. It's not worth getting a bunch of new players in here if we don't onboard them effectively. So we've spent a ton of time listening to all sorts of ideas, from creative, support, development, players. And I spent actually a lot of time over the holiday break thinking about the best way to sort of teach new players about the game in a fun way when they come in, um, and just provide a better experience. We've done a lot of different like little things here and there. Like I mentioned, we're going to fix up practice mode, and we've kind of made it more free to play, so you don't have to buy the spell book before you can do anything. But the big thing that's still missing is kind of like the tutorial system. Um, so what we've come up with and what we're planning to implement that we believe we can finish up before the launch of Conclave Arcana, when we plan to do the marketing, is what I'm calling a campaign mode, which is like a story mode. So basically, a single player game mode, um, with the initial intent of teaching new players how to play. So once this is released, when new players come into the game, they'll be dropped into this campaign mode where they will go through a campaign, and our creative team, has come up with a whole storyline and lore and things about this, and videos and all this cool stuff. But it'll be, the idea is like they'll have challenges, and each challenge at the beginning will give them a custom battle where they focus just on learning about one thing. So the very first battle, will they'll unlock a few cards, and we'll talk about that in a second. But they'll get a few cards, and they'll have this battle against a preset team that we make, and it'll just teach them one thing. So the first one might just teach them about choosing a summoner and a unit. Then they win the battle, and then they'll go to the next one, and they'll earn more cards as rewards. So they earn some more cards, they go to the next one, and it might teach them about the different attack types, and they have to make a team and arrange their cards properly with melee in front and ranged in the back. And then the next one can go into something else, and we'll have a whole list of these different campaign battles that they go through. They learn the game as they do, and they unlock these cards as rewards. So they increase their collection as they go. And the cards that we're going to use, that the players are going to unlock, and that they're also going to battle against, is a new set, which I've talked about in the past a little bit. We're now calling the Foundation set. So it's going to be a brand new set of cards, just like any other kind of core set of cards. Um, the cards are all going to be soulbound, and they will be worse, like noticeably worse than similar existing cards in like Chaos Legion or Rebellion or Conclave Arcana. And the idea is that we can give these cards out to new players, you know, for free, and not have to worry about bots exploiting it or anything like that. So players can come into the game, and they can go through these campaigns where they learn how to play the game, and they can earn these cards. The cards will also have foundation packs that they'll be able to earn as rewards. So they'll get the fun of opening packs. It'll have legendary cards, epic cards, all that stuff. So they'll get to earn packs and rewards, just like in a free to play trading card game would have. So hopefully we can give them a fun and rewarding experience as they come in and learn how to play the game. And then by the time that they get through the single player campaign, or at least the first one for learning how to play, the hope is that they'll be pretty well versed in how the game works, and they'll have a decent collection of these foundation cards that they're familiar with. And they may even be a little bit higher level at that point. They may have multiples of the cards and be able to level them up. That can be one of the campaign lessons, is how to combine your cards and level them up. So when they jump over to modern battles, they have decent cards that can compete. Now, obviously, these cards are going to be generally worse than the Chaos League. Well, by that point, Chaos Legion might be out of modern, but they'll be generally worse than the Rebellion or Conclave Arcana cards. So idea is it'll encourage players um, to want to buy those cards. You won't be able to just kind of go off of these foundation cards. But that's kind of the onboarding experience that we're going for. And also, all our existing players, we plan to offer the foundation packs for sale for Glint in the reward shop. So all of you guys can feel free to, and they'll be relatively cheap also. So you'll be able to buy a bunch of those for those of you who just like collecting all the cards in the game. Um, and certainly everyone would be able to play through the new player campaign too if they'd like, and relearn how to play the game. But the cool thing about the campaign and story mode is, while we're initially planning to use it for the onboarding experience to teach new players how to play the game, um, the idea is that we can easily extend it and add new campaigns that are not about teaching people how to play, and is about giving a single player PvE game experience to everybody. So it's a way that we'll be able to add cool things like boss fights in. So it'll just be a new mode that everyone will have available to play, which will have these battles built in that you have to win. And hopefully we can, do some interesting things in the future. And we can add new ones and take them out, rotate them. So there hopefully at some point will be lots of new interesting campaigns for all of our players to participate in, and earn certain rewards. And then, which is something that a lot of our players have been asking about and talking about for a very long time. So I saw this as a really cool way to build that. Um, Initially for new players, teaching them how to play the game in a way that can just be expanded to add boss fights and the story mode and PVE that we've been hearing and also talking about for a while. So that's kind of where we landed on our plan for the onboarding experience. Um, and that's what we're working on releasing before Conclave Arcana, which, as I assume most of you already know, is the new set that at this point we plan to release in April. I think that's when we have scheduled the pre-sale to start. Obviously, all our dates might change. We don't know what's going to happen. Um, so uh, yeah, all of this is getting ready. So by the release of Conclave Arcana, we have a much smoother, a much more engaging and fun onboarding experience for new players. Um, and then we're working with the marketing team on a robust plan to go out and get um, as many new players into that as possible. And they have some really cool ideas for how to do that. Some like special incentives that we're going to be able to offer. Um, and and other things that they can use in their marketing plan. So again, this is going to be the first time ever that we've really done a real organized marketing and promotional push. Um, and it'll probably be the first time ever that we've really had a decent onboarding experience in the product. So, like I've said before, I am super excited to see how that goes. Um, but the team is going to have to kind of work their butts off for the next few months to make all this stuff happen. There's just like 10 different things maybe I just talked about that we're trying to get in the next less than 3 months, I guess, at this point. So we'll see. We may not get to all those things. Speaking of that, one of the projects we had on our list was the glamour system, and just based on the discussions we've had, that's one of the things that I think is at this point is going to have to be pushed back to after Conclave Arcana. There's just no way we can get that kind of large system in with all the other stuff we're doing. And I believe it's more important to focus on the onboarding experience, especially since it's so important for our marketing campaign, and then to push glamour back a little. And I also think it's all right because Conclave Arcana will be a big kind of exciting release for everybody, and we might let that kind of settle in for a little before releasing another kind of big exciting thing with the glamour system. But that glamour is definitely planned to be kind of the next big thing after Conclave Arcana. Um, so that is the overview of kind of everything we have going on and everything I think that we're planning, at least as far as like big major items over the next 3 to 4 months. I know Call Me Tim has been hard at work on the Conclave Arcana cards. I've had a bunch of discussions with him about them. We definitely focused a lot on ensuring that max level cards have significant increase in stats to make it worthwhile for the amount of cards it takes to get to max level. I know that's been a complaint in the past related to certain cards. So I think we can expect with Conclave Arcana that there'll be, it should be definitely worth it for pretty much all the cards to get them to max level. And I think we're planning on releasing a new mechanic in addition to new abilities. One new mechanic in Conclave Arcana. I'm not going to talk about that yet because it's still a bit TBD. Um, but it should be a pretty exciting set, and obviously things with Chaos Legion going out of Modern. are going to shake up very significantly. And the new mechanic that we're looking to put in is also one that is planned to be able to synergize with the older cards, so it can kind of breathe some life into potentially some rebellion cards, or even older cards in wild format too. So that I think is pretty cool as well. Investi, did I miss anything? Is there anything you wanted to comment on?
Let me look at our project list, which I've got over here. I think you've hit most of the big items. Um, we definitely have a lot in the next few months, but yeah, I think the probably things you will see soonest will be survival mode. Hopefully, the mobile app, though we're working with a third party, so some of that's on their schedule. Hopefully, practice bots or practice improvements. There we go. With more of a PVE practice fairly soon. I think everything else we've talked about is, yeah, that's probably the next several months worth of projects at least.
Yeah, no, it's a lot, and I mean, to be clear, we have like 5 developers working on on these things, and that also includes all the little stuff. I mean, you see our release notes, even in the small releases, has like a long list of little stuff, right, and bugs and all the stuff that comes up. We're still, I think our Amazon bill is still being reduced every single month, so there's those same developers are working a little bit here and there on reducing those costs, and there's just like a lot of little stuff that happens in the background. That's also a lot of why it's so much faster if you're building a new game and it hasn't launched yet. Like, everything's 100 times faster to build than when things are live in production, because when it's live, you also have to take care of all the production issues. And we don't, I guess, some companies that are larger have, like, production teams and new feature teams. We don't have that. So our developers split their time between all those things. So we have a lot of projects, but I'm pretty confident that we'll get the majority of them done in the time frame we're looking at. I think we've spent a good amount of time going through them and specing them and discussing them, and moving things around till we got to a point that looks good. Um, I don't know, since we don't have the Nate show tonight. um, I guess we can just jump right into questions. This may end up being a little shorter of a town hall, but rather than me just go on about random things, I would like to hear what the community would like to hear about. So yeah, go ahead and let's open questions, and maybe I'll spend a little more time than I already do pontificating on some of the questions. If you want me to talk about something, just ask a question, tell us to talk about something. We'll do it that way. All right, there we go. The Q&A session is now open. Um, and Ron, are we going to do the thing where questions from other channels get automatically popped into Discord? Awesome. Okay, so yeah, feel free to ask your questions on the Twitch or YouTube, and they should pop up in Discord. All right. Well, there was a question that was quoted from above. Are the land liquidity pools currently charging a 10% swap fee? Do you know? I don't remember.
Yes, I believe it's a 10% swap fee and a 12% transfer fee, so it's cheaper to swap than to do a peer-to-peer exchange.
Yeah, and that swap fee, I think, goes to the liquidity providers, right? That encourages players to provide liquidity. Um, Yeah, and while I wait for more questions to roll in, I'll talk about that a little more, because that's kind of one of the key things for land 1.75. Right now it's just grain pretty much, and I know a lot of people, for the most part, are able to produce enough grain, so there's not a ton of swap volume, which is to be expected with one resource that is somewhat abundant. In land 1.5, we are going to be introducing 3 new natural resources: wood, stone, and iron. And then, so not every plot will be able to produce grain. Only certain types of plots will be able to produce grain, and the other plots will be able to produce one of the other 3 items. So the idea is that most players, players that might not have entire regions or whatever, will probably not be able to produce all of the resources that they need themselves, which is the point. That's the goal. So it will kind of force everyone to swap with each other. So if I produce more stone, someone else is producing more grain just based on the plots they have. I will need to swap my stone for the grain. They will need to swap their grain for stone, and so hopefully swap volumes will increase considerably. And if swap volumes increase considerably, that means a lot more fees are being generated for liquidity providers. And if more fees are being generated for liquidity providers, it means people will provide more liquidity. And liquidity is each resource is paired with dark energy crystals. So the goal of this entire system is to lock up a lot more dark energy crystals, which obviously helps the market value of dark energy crystals. Um, and which then directly goes into the value of the SPS token. So yeah, that's why there is a swap fee. That's why it is high. It really benefits everyone in the system at the end of the day who has SPS tokens, which is the goal of this whole thing. The next question is for Investigator.
It's a joke question because earlier he was asking if I sleep, and because I always look tired, which is probably because I'm more watching us than staring at the camera. Um, so hopefully none is a real answer, but yes, there's a and to yes, it's a 10% swap fee. Half of it's burned, half of it goes to the market because originally it was all going to market, but then we decided to burn half of it after discussion about boosting the DEC economy.
All right, well then that's DEC being burned, which boosts the
Yeah,
economy directly even more. There's not even one clown.
I hope not.
Well, you never know. Uh,
Rondon is not in my closet. Yes.
all right, that is good to know. Jedi Alpha is asking, will conflict wagons potentially feature in the new campaign mode for normal players? Also, has a conflict wagon repair cost been decided on? Um, So I don't think conflict wagons are going to feature in the campaign mode for the new players. Obviously, we haven't got into designing campaign mode beyond that yet. The focus first is designing campaign mode for the onboarding experience, but we are purposely building it in a kind of modular way. So it will be relatively easy for us to add new campaigns later on. I haven't even begun to think about those yet, though, or what will be involved. And as far as the repair costs, it has not been decided on, because one of the reasons is I would like it to involve land resources. So when we get to land 1.75 and we have the new resources, I would like for the wagons to be able to be repaired with stone and wood and iron and that type of stuff. And we're still working out all the details and numbers on that. So we want to do that first, and then we'll take that. We'll kind of see how that goes in production, uh, and we'll roll that into the conflict wagons, and not only the repair costs, potentially also the purchase costs for new wagons. So it'll be one of the first kind of main ways that land gets directly tied into the rest of the game. But we're going to wait till that is closer and land 1.5 is out, kind of before we decide on cost, because it's hard to decide now when we don't know how that's going to go. Okay. Question from Bejangles. Would the team consider designing Conclave Arcana, including core set cards, airdrops, promos, and reward cards, as a cohesive unit to ensure that the cards are thoroughly tested and balanced together, minimizing the risk of releasing broken and/or underwhelming cards? I realize this means we may need to adjust the expectations and design process of airdrop summoners, but I think it's safe to assume that most folks will be happy to accept the adjusted process in favor of getting an awesome meta. Um, yeah, I'm not sure exactly what process you are proposing. What we have proposed so far is that we're going to go ahead and design the first version of the cards, and we're going to have them available for a play test. I think Royal Eagle and uh, Claiborne, I think, have been working on gathering a group of players, which I think yourself included, who have been helpful at giving feedback on cards in the past, to play test the cards for a month or so before the release. and try to make sure it's a good set and balanced. We can try to include the airdrop cards and everything else, but we're definitely not designing all of those cards at once. I mean, it's already a big project to design the Conclave Arcana cards. And we always, I think every time we release a set, when we release the next part of the set, we try to design it to be a good part of the set. Um, but we'll plan to do the same thing and get feedback from a core group of players for a reasonable amount of time before every single additional card or set is released to incorporate player feedback in the set. So yeah, I'd say I mean, obviously open to working with you guys to make the set as best as possible, and we can figure out. You know, you mentioned a new process, so be happy to talk with you about the process that you have in mind. Um, Question: would it be a bad idea for Splinterlands to list different levels of tofu for rent in the Splinterlands market rentals page? The faster they list them, the more revenue for Splinterlands. Uh, yeah, well, we would have to acquire a bunch of different levels of tofu to do that. Um, we're certainly not just going to print them for ourselves. But yeah, I hope that's a good opportunity for other people to take up that market opportunity. Nerd Cthulhu asks, will you consider implementing storage requirements sooner than later to reduce the amount of production plots? I really worry about resource supply ballooning out of control given the land timeline. Um, well, I mean, we're going to implement everything as soon as we're able to implement it and it makes sense. So I don't know. Right now, we're working on getting the plan for 1.75 out, and after that, I think we're going to look at what the next thing that makes sense is. But I don't really worry about supply issues, because if it takes a long time for the next thing to come out and people are able to accumulate a lot of the resources, that's fine, because we'll take that into account when we add the next things that use the resources. So we don't know how many resources it's going to take to create each level of building, for example. So it could take, if there's for whatever reason a huge abundance of wood, um, we can make it cost a lot of wood to do those things to sort of compensate. So I wouldn't just like rush out storage requirements just because of that. But it may be one of the next steps in the process. I'm not really sure. Um, oh yeah, someone bananas mentioned that Peaks Monster shows what resource your plots will produce in Land 1.75. So that is cool. I did not know that. Thank you, Peak Monsters, as always. Uh, Also, I will mention, currently we are thinking that we don't plan to change the grain uh, production and consumption costs. So I think last month I talked about that we were going to review that and see if we thought any changes were necessary. But after having gone through a bunch of the numbers and the data, my current feeling is that we don't need to change that for LAM 1.75. So what that means is that even though roughly a quarter of the plots will be able to produce grain that can produce them now, they will still produce the same amount, and the consumption rate will still be the same. So, grain may be a much more valuable and hard to get resource at that point, where now it's pretty common and abundant. So, it will, you'll, you won't just all of a sudden get a ton more grain. So, you just have one plot producing grain. That may not be sufficient, uh, once we get to land 1.75, or, that plot may not be able to produce grain anymore because it'll produce one of the other resources. And then you'll need to purchase grain to make up that shortfall. Um, Question from Paul TRX: have bot providers been given any info on how survival mode will work for their coding that will need to be done? Not yet. Once we get to a point in survival mode where it's kind of ready for testing and on a QA environment, I think we'll plan to open that up to uh, you know anyone, maybe Mavs or whatever it is, and make sure we give a reasonable amount of time for them to hammer on it and get their services ready. Um, yeah, no reason. We definitely wouldn't want to like rush that out before everyone's ready. That would make it not a good experience. Um, oh, the next post. Okay, yeah. So from 2H174. As much as I appreciate new ideas like survival mode, for me, what takes most fun out of the game is meeting full max decks in bronze, silver, and gold. When card restrictions on leagues were released, it was mentioned that it will level out, but what I'm seeing is quite the opposite. Players are using alts to get easy SPS. Also a bad experience for new players. So why not bring back card level restrictions for leagues? I mean, from I haven't personally been participating at those levels. Uh, I kind of look to Royal Eagle and the customer service team. Um, from what I've heard, that is not a common problem. That you're often meeting full maxed out decks in those lower leagues. If I'm mistaken, I will look into that more. But the if that's the case, then that is a problem that we need to solve. I don't necessarily think we need to solve it in the way of bringing back card level restrictions for leagues, because that, in my opinion, introduced a lot of other problems. So I think there's a common reaction with the community is there's been changes made. There are things people don't like about the changes, so they just want to go back. I prefer. I think there are a lot of benefits that came out of the changes, so I prefer to look at whatever problems are there and try to solve those problems rather than just undo the whole thing. Um, but the way the whole system works is, in general, you should move up or down to whatever rating allows you to win roughly 50% of your battles. So someone with a full max deck is going to win way more than 50% of their battles in lower leagues and should then move up the ratings.
So some of the issue right now is that with the cheap Chaos Legion cards, a large percentage of players have max level decks. I don't really think it's much of an issue in bronze, but because it is postseason reset, a lot of players that were golden up, you'll probably start seriously hitting a lot of max level cards. Since season reset just happened, a lot of them just got shifted back to silver. So you may be running into some max level players now. They should probably be moving up into gold in the next few days. It is usually tougher right after end of season because of the season resets. People get moved back. We are trying to put in some liquidity bots that should make it easier for people with max level decks to move up. And hopefully, when Conclave Arcana comes out and the modern format cycles, we'll see a lot more balance of decks than a lot more varied levels of decks throughout the system than we see right now.
Yeah, and that was a good point you made about like the majority of our players now are our most in, you know are our oldest and most dedicated players with lots of max level decks. And the rating system is sort of like grading on a curve, in school, for example. So and it's like being graded on a curve, um, where the vast majority of the players or the people are like A plus students effectively. So if you're in the middle, uh, it's sort of like you're up against all these like A plus students, and uh, you kind of are at the lower end. So that's why I don't know if I'm explaining this right, but it's so that's I think that's what investigator meant by a lot of the people that are participating have max level decks, so it's hard. You're going to be matched up against them a lot more often. The way to fix that, which is obviously what we're already doing, is trying to get a whole lot of new players in here. So if our marketing is successful, we're able to get a whole bunch of new players in here, then we'll hopefully have a flood of people with a lot lower level decks, and then it will push everybody up a lot more. Um, so that won't be an issue. And again, so I don't want to go and make changes, um, to like make significant changes to the game that can cause other problems for what I hope is a temporary issue. Now, if going forward we somehow don't manage to get very many new players and this is just the state of things, we'll have to reevaluate. But my focus is on looking at the specific problems and trying to fix those rather than just reverting a large change that also reverts, other things that have been beneficial. Um, I lost my place here a little bit. All right. Next question, I think, is from Bolts85. If I miss a question, jump in and let me know. Uh, is Splinterlands burning Conclave packs like they did for Rebellion? If so, how about Splinterlands open packs instead during a town hall live event that Splinterlands can list the cards in the rental market? Um, we are not doing anything. We made a proposal to the DAO, to the player community, about how Chaos Legion, Conclave Arcana is going to be launched, and it will burn packs in a similar mechanism to how we've done for Rebellion. And then also, I think 10% of the packs will go to the DAO every day, which the DAO can use for whatever purposes they want. And the same thing was done with Rebellion and I think Rift Watchers. So if you guys would like to put up a proposal about opening a bunch of DAO packs on a town hall event, we'd be happy to do that, and then the DAO can list them on the market, or someone like Claiborne can do it on behalf of the DAO, and the DAO can earn for that. So I think that would be very cool, and that's kind of the idea of the DAO getting these packs is they can do kind of neat marketing things or fun things with them.
Or if you want to run a proposal to give them all to the company, we'll take them. But right now, it's up to the
DAO. And a question from Bejangles. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I apologize. But it's, can we visit the mechanics of the mimic ability on Olivia, because it seems excessively powerful. So I will bring that up to Call Me Tim. Since I don't personally deal with all the card designs, it's hard for me to say, but he's the one in the weeds on that. I will, we'll forward that on to him and get his take on it. And then I'll also just throw out there that if that's something the community feels strongly about, a DAO proposal is a good way to, send a clear message to us that that's something the community wants, assuming that it's approved by the stakeholders. So, yeah, we'll do, we'll get Call Me Tim's input, and then leave the proposal option open if needed. Question from Paul TRX: how am I doing? And how is the team's morale? I'm doing pretty good. I think a lot of people mentioned to me that I seemed a lot more excited than normal at the end of last year in like November and December. That was definitely true. Uh, we kind of been waiting and slogging through a lot of crap, um, to get here. And I feel like we are at a point now where a lot of the stuff we've taken care of, a lot of the issues from the past, although some of those are still needing to be dealt with. But a lot of stuff has been cleaned up. We've gotten the company to a pretty much break even point in our spending, which is like really one of the biggest like worries on my mind, was that we were going to run out of money. We've gotten it to a pretty stable position right now, so that's a large weight off my back. I mean, obviously these things can change pretty quickly, but for now, based on how things are going, we're in a very good spot. And in the crypto world, which we're obviously very much a part of, things have been looking extremely good over the past few months. So we will take all the help we can get. Obviously, we're going to continue doing what we do and try to make this thing a huge success, regardless of what crypto and markets do. But if they want to give us a nice tailwind, we will take it. So I am feeling much better about things than I have for a long time, to be honest. And the other thing, I've mentioned a bunch of times that, as CEO, I spend a lot of my time dealing with non product stuff that you just have to deal with when you're running a company, dealing with old outstanding issues from the past and legal issues and uh, HR problems and tax issues and all this nonsense that you know I don't like at all. So the team has been working on and with even some of the community on some solutions to allow me to focus more on the product and have other people kind of help out with the other parts of the business that I don't like, to be quite honest. So I would say things are looking a lot better, and I'm feeling a lot better than I have in the past. But we have a lot of work to do, and we're not out of the woods. I think if we can do a successful Conclave Arcana launch, um, along with a even remotely successful marketing campaign. Like we don't need huge numbers here to make a big impact on this game. If we can get a few hundred new players, I mean that's like tiny, and we're shooting for much much more than that. But that would be like a really big impact. And I say like not players that just come and put in their email address and sign up, but actually like serious committed players that are buying stuff in the game. Even just a few hundred will make a pretty big impact on what we have now. So low hanging fruit there. So those are the two things I'm really kind of hanging our hats on that we can have a good new set launch coupled with even remotely decent marketing push. Um, I think that'll set things up really well for the remainder of the year. For the team's morale, I don't know. Investigator, you're part of the team. What do you think?
I think it's overall decent since a lot of people are coming back from vacation. So Cryptomancer just came back. A lot of people are coming back from the holidays, or it's been a couple weeks now. It is a very busy, very busy quarter. We've got a lot of projects in the works, so I think people are feeling that there's an awful lot of work to do. But I don't think that there's. I think morale is still fine. It's just hoping that we can get through everything, before Conclave Arcana comes out that we want to get done.
Yeah, yeah, it is a lot of stuff going on. I mean, the team's got a lot of work ahead of them. I feel bad. I don't like putting a lot of pressure on people and that stuff. But hey, we got to do what we got to do. Uh, Question from Maury No Giant. Could you please consider to also teach basic things like how to rent a card within story mode? Yeah, I think everything's on the table. I mean, we haven't got into like we're currently just starting to build out the coding and the system for story mode, and then separately, I think the creative team is off working on what exactly each part of each chapter of it will teach and how it will work. And I would like to get into more than just how to play the game itself, how to do battles. So I mentioned combining cards, potentially burning cards, tokens. So possibly not every chapter will be a battle, or maybe it could be a battle, but you have to like rent a card, and use it in the battle and win the battle or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, I think pretty much everything is on the table. Um, but I also even if like that specific thing doesn't necessarily get in story mode, I do think you don't have to necessarily teach everybody everything up front. And if you get them at least pretty comfortable with the base game and they have a decent set of cards that they can use, then they can slowly discover some of the additional things. I think we just the main thing is just get them into it, so they're interested in learning more as effectively as possible. Um,
Throwing 2 cents on that. We also do direct people a little bit more towards rentals now. One of the first things it suggests you do is rent a set. So we kind of point people towards there being a rental system in the game. We have also been adding more academy panels to the site for people that may have questions about how to use stuff. It's not quite a tutorial, but at least there's more information up there about how to do different things.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, yeah, so there are, I mean, are a lot of other ways we can also expose people to things and teach them about them than just the campaign mode. But that's the details of exactly what's going to be in the story are still TBD. Um, Question, I guess, from Joffrey Jones that Bolts has posted here. How much have we paid Blaze, and what advertising has he done? I'm not going to comment on the exact amount that we are paying Blaze. I will comment on that. I think it's a he has been very reasonable on his ask, and he's also taking 25% of his pay in SPS tokens. So he is super committed to this ecosystem, and I don't think we would have got anyone nearly as good for that price and that's willing to take SPS tokens outside of our community. Um, and he's been doing a ton of stuff on on X in particular. I believe I don't have a whole list. I was hoping he'd be able to be on last time, but he wasn't able to make it. But he should be able to join the call next time. And I'll put a pin in that question, and I prefer that you ask him. I think he'd do a lot better job telling you about all the cool stuff he has done and all the cool stuff he is planning to do himself. And I'll also mention that, we've been working with two consultants that have, very significant Web3 game marketing experience. So, Blaze is basically going to be the lead on implementing their suggestions for our marketing and promotional campaign. But I think we've seen actually a pretty decent uptick in signups and spell books over the last week or maybe 2 weeks. So, and as far as I know, we haven't really done anything different aside from Blaze, kind of pushing us on social media. And I think he does have some kind of like promotions and things coming up. So I think he's actually starting to make an impact even before we have a full marketing plan for him to implement. I'm personally super happy with his impact and his enthusiasm and his work here so far. Um,
Yeah, sorry you couldn't make it, and we have the I'm the lower energy team member on here as the other person. Usually Nate's the more excited one out of the three when we do these.
yeah, that's for sure. Um, Question or comment from Bajangles. On a related note, there are a lot of folks that refused to vote or downvoted the Nidhogger proposal based on the sentiment that the team and the team alone should be dictating gameplay, and the DAO has no business touching gameplay and design. So that said, I realize we may have incorrectly assumed the role of the DAO all along and not reaching into gameplay, instead seeing our jurisdiction as we should be confined to SPS related proposals. I think I specifically said on multiple occasions that one of the things that DAO proposals can be for is potentially altering card stats. I think what I had also said was that while for SPS related things, the DAO has 100% say, and we do what the DAO asks us to do when it comes to that. For other things, it's more a suggestion for the team, um, but I want those suggestions. Like one of the things I'm very excited about with the proposal system is that it gives a very concrete, verifiable way for the community to give us feedback. And it's not, I was very easy to give us feedback. Someone can just say, I, think this thing or I want to do this thing. But that it's hard for us to tell, is that really something that a lot of the community wants? There's probably a whole bunch of people that think that want to do the opposite thing, that maybe just aren't on Discord as much or that talk as much. So it's like really hard to gauge how important a certain thing is, just when some or a few people talk about it, right? So the proposal system is a stake weighted way to really prove the community sentiment on a certain topic. So if if certain people feel that the team should be, the ones doing the stats, and ignore everything else. I guess that's their opinion, and they can vote how they want. But yeah, I liked the Nidhogger proposal. I mean, I'm not talking about the proposal, the details of the proposal, but the fact that it was the first proposal that proposes changing the stats on the card. I hope that would open up that to happen more often, and we see more proposals that for things that the community hopefully is behind, and it's like a way we can say like, oh, we know 100% the community has spoken. They want this. We don't have to worry like, oh, we're just listening to a few people that are loud and other people might disagree with them. Um, as far as the specific proposal, I haven't talked to the people individually that voted either way on the proposal. But I think some of the feedback I did see here and there was that there might have been too many changes, and some people didn't like that many changes. Possibly it might make sense to do a proposal with smaller changes. I don't know. But I'd say don't give up. uh, it's a difficult thing. It's brand new. I don't exactly know what the best way to handle everything is, or exactly who should be in charge of what. Um, but I really would like to encourage everyone to use the proposal system more uh, as a way. It makes our job easier because we don't have to guess. And when people get all kinds of angry at us for different changes we make, it makes it a lot easier for us if we can say, look, the overwhelming majority of the SPS stakeholders that make this game what it is want this. So you know we're we're clearly listening to the community with making that change or not making a change, whatever the proposal may be. Um, so yeah, Harry, feel free to jump in if you had anything on that. But
Uh, um, I know there was some concern, especially from Royal, about the community voting in stat changes so far after a card has been released. I can understand if a card is particularly overpowered, wanting to maybe nerf it so the meta isn't ruled by a single card or a couple cards. But I do appreciate that the community does have the ability to give their feedback, or the SPS stakeholders can give their input. Uh, that is kind of Matt's vision about how things with the game should be run. Is that the community has a lot of direct stake-weighted input on how they want the game to work. But yeah, I will keep my personal opinions about Nidhogger and Tofu to myself, and we can move on to the next question.
yeah, I mean, it ties into the next question, which is from Extreme Player 63, uh, which is could I talk about my ultimate vision for Splinterlands 5 to 10 years from now? What's changed or not, and what's my dream vision? So I think really the vision is like as much as possible have a completely community owned game, right? A community owned and operated game. Have it be completely decentralized. Um, and it is scary. So you mentioned Royal Eagle was concerned about these. Lots of people, everyone's got concerns about this stuff, right? It's a new thing. I don't think it's been done before, at least this way. Not that I'm aware of. Um, this type of ownership system and proposal system for a game like this. So yeah, we don't know how it's going to work out. There's probably going to be mistakes along the way and hiccups and all this stuff. But that's what I'm here for. That's what makes this different. It's not just a company makes a game and runs the whole thing, and you just have NFTs that you own and can sell. A lot of people are doing that. I don't think that's all that exciting. I would like to take it much further. We're working towards the Splinterlands company just being a contract software developer for the DAO. And I kind of tell people this a lot. Like, I think the players, you guys, the community, needs to start thinking of yourselves as the owners of this product, right? You guys own the product. The DAO is the one selling Conclave Arcana. The DAO is the one hiring us to do the Hall of Legends, and it's going to be more and more of that. Like, the company is going to be doing less and less stuff, and it's going to on our own, and it's more going to be the DAO is going to be hiring the company to do the things that it wants to do. And so a lot of these things, the company, like we basically propose to the DAO and say, hey, here's what we want to do. Here's what we think is good. Basically, do you guys agree or not as far as approving the proposal? Um, and in most cases, but not all cases, the community has agreed. And then sometimes people get all upset about a certain thing. And I try to impress upon people like, okay, if you think a certain thing should change, and you feel that there's general agreement among the community, it's yours, right? You use the proposal system um, as a way to show that the community actually wants this change, and that's that's what we're going to do. I mean, going forward, I know that in the past there's been a bunch of times where we haven't implemented proposals. Most of those times, I think, was just because we weren't able to get to them, and I think that's not great. And going forward, I want to try to make sure we really start listening to the community more. And it is a little scary. Things, we haven't. This hasn't been tried before. I don't know how it's going to work out. But I'm not here to do the same old thing that every other game is doing. Uh, I would like to be part of a community owned game. Um, so I think, yeah, and people also say, oh well, the whales are just gonna do all this ridiculous stuff that makes everybody leave. Our whales are not dumb. And that I'm pretty sure they understand, at least collectively, that we need lots of players and lots of new players and people at all levels uh, to be here and be putting money in the ecosystem and having fun. And I really highly doubt we're going to get more than 2/3 of the SPS power to vote for something that's really that bad for the game. Um, so, I mean, I guess, you know, that's part of the ultimate vision. Um, and the other part, which is all kind of the same, is that basically I want to see all the funds. Like I just want it to be sort of like a normal game, a normal game experience like you'd have in Web 2 games or whatever, a fun, engaging thing that people like and they put money in. But that the whole idea is that all of the money should go to the DAO. All of the money should go to the players, right? And then the company, like I said, is a contract software developer that the DAO hires, and perhaps the DAO will hire other people. The DAO's hired, Patrick's group to do the validators. At this point, the DAO is paying Cryptomancer to do land. So the DAO really takes over as the thing where everything goes through, and that's also very different. There's no game, even blockchain game that I'm aware of, where the all of the money that comes into the game goes to a player operated DAO. Most again are just a company making a game. They sell all the stuff, they get all the money, they get all the profits, and the players, get some token with questionable value and NFTs that they can trade. So the vision is taking it much further than that. And part of that is, also expanding the validators. The initial release of validators is basically just going to be the SPS token. That's just scratching the surface. Eventually, over 5 to 10 years, hopefully not that long, validators will handle everything. All the cards, DEC, all the other tokens, land, all this stuff will all be part of the validators. So that it can all be run independently of our company. And again, that the DAO hopefully will choose to pay us to develop a lot of that stuff, and make changes when changes should be made. They can hire us to do game design, right? So like we do now. We're basically like design new sets of cards, new features, new things. We do the work. We sort of propose it to the DAO. Here's the designs we want to implement, and the DAO can vote on those type of things. So uh, that's my ultimate vision for this. Is to be this fully decentralized player owned game, the first one that has ever existed, um, as far as I know. I think that's really cool, and I think that's like really pushing the envelope and showing the power of blockchain and crypto beyond just like here's a bunch of NFTs. um the next question is from Fat Jimmy. How can we have fair leaderboards without card level caps, and what were the problems league level caps actually caused? Might these problems be addressed in other ways, i.e., one being let players choose the league they want to play in? P.S. I love the idea of bringing back lower level leaderboards. Um, Yeah, I mean, I don't know what your definition of fair is, but again, it was like I mentioned earlier. The leaderboard that you are competing for the season will be based on your rating at the beginning of the season. So, um, everyone that started the season in Silver League will compete for the Silver League leaderboard. So, I don't know, why that would necessarily not be fair. And if a player, rents a max level deck of cards and they, you know, easily get to the top of the Silver League leaderboard, they'll also move up well out of Silver League, maybe into Diamond League or something. So that means next season they'll be in the Diamond League leaderboard. So yeah, for a season they might be in a lower leaderboard than makes sense, but then the next season they'll be in a leaderboard that they'll be competing for a leaderboard that is, at their level. And it's, a suggestion that a number of players have made of like how European sports work, apparently, where there's a league and a bunch of the teams compete, and the top teams at the end of the season they move to the next league for the next season. The bottom teams move down. This is effectively the same thing. So your leaderboard is fixed based on where you start the season. And at the end of the season, if you've moved up to a higher league, then next season you'll be competing for that leaderboard. Or if you've moved down to a lower league, next season you'll be competing in that leaderboard. So, hopefully, I think that it's different than it was before, but I think it can still be a fun, and competitive experience for players at different levels of the game. Um, the problems that league level caps actually cause. Well, one thing, first of all, I I haven't played like every game out there, certainly, but I don't can't think of any game that I've ever played that worked that way. Um, especially trading card games. I mean, like pretty much every game I know of, that has like a rating system where you're battling other players, you you win battles, you move up, and the leagues are just basically they group you by your ratings. That's all it is. So, I think early on we overcomplicated a lot of things, and that caused a lot of problems. And I think as much as possible, we should try to do what pretty much all the other games do. Um, they, if so many other games work a certain way, I tend to think that it probably works pretty well. Um, and like so we don't differentiate ourselves on how our leagues work. We differentiate ourselves on ownership and player control and all that stuff that I was just talking about with division. So some of the things that the problems that the league level caps caused. Well, for one thing, it just allowed people to sort of stay in a lower league, even though they had all the max cards for that league. And it was, for like regular players just moving up the leagues, it got very hard to move up because you kind of got stomped on by all these players that really should have been in other leagues because you were matched up against players in the league. So instead of people like moving from say silver to gold or whatever as they should have, they chose to stay in silver, and then they got matched up against other silver players, um, which made it difficult. And I've heard from an experience or people that I know experience that being difficult. And another thing is once you got a card to the max level for that league, then you might end up earning or getting more of that card, and then you can't use it. And I never thought I always thought that was weird. Or you're just once you have the card at max level for that league, you just have no reason to ever improve the card or level it up. Um, I I didn't think any of that was good. I thought the system you know was convoluted and should not have been put into place at all in the first place. So those are some of the problems I thought that the league level caps caused. And I just thought it was a strange, weird, unusual experience for no reason. Might the problems be addressed in other ways? Yeah, possibly. I mean, it was a while ago, but at the time, I think I didn't just wake up one day and be like, "This is what we're doing." I spend most of my time thinking about this, and at the time and now, I didn't think of another way that addressed those things better than just removing that kind of weird mechanic, in my opinion. Um, and I don't understand. I don't. A lot of people like they just want to choose the league they want to play in, but again, like every other game I'm familiar with, that's not even a thing. And I don't know why. Like if players don't want to move up, if it's like a bad thing moving up into a higher league, if you win battles, then I feel like we have a problem, right? That there's a different problem. um, so like in every game I've ever played, the idea was to win more and get a higher rating, which then puts you in a higher league bracket, which is just a rating range like we have it now. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's just players should always want to move up. Players should always be incentivized to move up. If they should always be incentivized to level up their cards, get more cards. Um, and moving up should never be a bad thing. We talked earlier about like if players are moving up and then they're going against max level decks or things that where they can't be competitive. I mean, that's part of what our trying to onboard a lot of new players should help address. And I think that's more of a short term kind of specific issue, not an issue with the way the system is built necessarily. So yeah, at least we're planning to bring back the level leaderboards in the way I just mentioned. We'll see how that goes, and we'll continue to look at this stuff. But you know, I really look at kind of all the other games I'm familiar with and try to copy everything that works for them here and just add the crypto and the ownership piece on top of it. Um,
To go back to our earlier thing with the DAO having its say on how the game works, if you have a better way that you want the game to work and can get a majority of the SPS stakeholders to agree on a proposal, we will look at implementing that. But last time we put in a proposal to reinstate leagues, it got downvoted massively. But maybe if you come up with a different idea, maybe you can get the stakeholders to be more interested in it.
Yeah, no, thank you, because that's a good point that I was just talking about. Like, yeah, if really I know a lot of different people have said that they would prefer to have the league level caps back. But there's some maybe thousands of people that participate in this game. So if 20 are saying this in Discord, to me that is not enough to make the change. I just had a whole long post about this in the town hall channel. It's probably you'd have to scroll up a ton now to find it, but that was essentially the thought. Like if you want to really show, if you're saying, hey, the community really feels this way, use the DAO proposal system to show us. I can't ignore that, right? I can't say I'm not really sure if that's the case. And if the cost of a proposal is a problem, there are ways to work around that. Um, but that is the mechanism to say, hey, you guys are wrong on this. The majority of the stakeholders in this community agree, and that's not something we can really ignore. But until then, that's my opinion after having listened very carefully to a lot of people talk about this for a long time and thought about it for a long time. My opinion is this is better overall for the long term success of the game, and we will work on addressing the specific issues that remain in other ways. Question from Mark Ward. Do you have any partnership in the pipeline? Some town hall back, you talked about a partnership and said that it will work for Splinterlands. Yeah, there were definitely some kind of in the past that we were looking at that I was kind of potentially excited about that fell through for various different reasons. It's kind of tough also, like I'm not a business development or sales guy, but that's part of also where Blaze comes in, and I think he's starting to work and look into some partnership opportunities. I think he has some smaller ones that he's planning to announce soon. But and I think that may be part of the marketing strategy, I would hope, that we're going to have. The two guys, the consultants that I mentioned that we're working with, they have a lot of connections in the space, and they are sales and business development guys. So I think partnerships have been some of the most successful things that we've done in the past as far as getting new people in. Um, So, now kind of for the first time in a while, we have some people that can focus on that. So, yes, I would like to see that, but we don't have anything to announce yet. Question also for Marcor. People with more than 10 nodes, how are they going to run their nodes after the validator nodes go live? Is there any benefit in holding more than one node? Yeah, so by nodes you mean node licenses, and you can utilize as many node licenses as you want with one actual node, like one computer running the software. You can use as many licenses. So you and my guess is that there's going to be services and things where someone runs a node and people can like stake their licenses on that other person's node and things like that. So yeah, even if you have 100 nodes, you still only have to run the software once, and you will get 100 times the benefit than if you had one license. So hopefully that answers that question. Um, I am scrolling. The next thing I see is a comment from Maury No Giant. I understand that you want the community to make many decisions in and for the game, but one of those decisions could be that the community does not want to be allowed to vote on card stats. Yeah, well, that's fine. And if the community doesn't want to be allowed to vote on card stats, I would suggest that someone publish a DAO proposal where the community can vote to not allow them to vote on card stats, right? So yeah, I'm not I don't plan to sit here and say the community can or cannot do anything. Um I I I don't know any of everything, but if the community decides, hey, you know what, we want Matt and the team to handle it, really more call me Tim at this point than me. Then that's fine. We're happy. Maybe they want someone else. Maybe they want to hire some outsourced game development company. I don't know. Probably not, but I'm just throwing it out there. So yes, that is totally fine, but it would be a community decision through a DAO vote. That's the type of stuff I want to see more. More like you. Why aren't you guys doing this? The whole community, agrees that you should do this. Well, we'll show us, prove it, and if that's the case, we'll do it. Um,
Paul TRX's question down a bit under the, yeah, right around there.
Yeah, I also Royal Eagle, posted clarifying his position about being neutral about changing the cards themselves, and that he prefers, as to not change card stats after it's been out and released for a long time, so people are more secure in their financial decisions. Which I get. There's two sides of a coin, right? And I've talked about this a lot, not with card stats necessarily, but with the game. Some people are like, well, you can't change X, Y, Z. People made decisions based on that. Um, so there's one thing. So do we can just not ever change anything, right? And then people can know whatever they do, nothing's going to change. But then what happens if like something that we're doing kind of sucks and is causing problems, right? Then we're locked into that. I mean, that's one of Bitcoin's real core strengths. Bitcoin is not going to change. Every other cryptocurrency pretty much, has is much easier to change, and that Ether has significant hard forks and changes on a relatively regular basis. So there's a lot of value to having a thing that does what it does and it works and it's never going to change. I don't personally think that is the right way to go for Splinterlands. I think something like Splinterlands is a big experiment and a big work in progress. And I even wrote a post a long time ago to just hopefully answer this question once and for all, is that I think it is better to embrace change and to let everyone know that as part of their financial decisions in the game or any decisions, to know that stuff is probably going to change. And I look at that as a good thing, because we're not just going to sit on things being broken because we can't change them. I prefer to say, hey, here's a problem, and we want to make sure that there are things that are really problems. Um, Obviously, change just for the sake of it is no good. But I prefer, in my opinion, again, I don't think anyone's ever done this before. I could be wrong. Just what I think is, I would prefer to embrace change and make changes quickly and efficiently when things clearly need them. Um, and to have that just be part of the understanding that when you're part of this game, it is a big experiment. It is going to change, and you should, everyone hopefully should understand that when they make decisions. And I think ultimately that is a good thing for our success. Um, but again, just my opinion. So if the player community, but it's up to you guys for the most part, and more going forward, it's going to be up to the player community what changes to make, if any, and when. So if you guys feel like, hey, we shouldn't change cards at all, or after a certain amount of time, or whatever it is, then don't do it, right? So that's that's just my opinion on things. But it's really up to you guys to decide and make your own decisions. Uh, I saw a comment about if the Dow gets rich enough, we can buy an island and form our own nation. And then your land in the game we'll have a real life island of Pretoria. Yeah, I mean, you never know. Things got a little crazy in 2021. You never anything's possible in crypto. That's what kind of one of the cool things. There's like with the stock market, you can't be like, oh, it's going to go up 100x in the next decade. It's like extremely unlikely. But like with crypto, very few things are completely off the table. Um, so hey, maybe we will have real life Pretoria. Um, All right, you know what? It's been a while. We've been doing questions. I think everyone's had a pretty good amount of time. And I think, because all the clowns in Investie's bedroom, we're getting a little tired. So, if you guys don't mind, you know, Ron, maybe we'll give 2 more minutes at 8:30 Eastern if you want to put up the end of the questions thing. So get your final questions in now. I'll keep talking for as long as it takes to get through whatever we have left. And then we'll call it a day for this one. And I'll just remind everyone once again, if you didn't get your question in now, or you're listening to this later and you have a question, post it in the town hall channel in Discord, and the team will get back to you as soon as we can. I've been trying. I set a reminder on my phone every few days to go check the town hall questions and respond to them. So hopefully I've been doing better at getting to them. But it's been a good way to allow people to get questions asked and answered without having to actually be on the live call. The next one from Paul TRX. But the caveat for leaderboards is we get reset each season. Won't that cause them to get reset back to the same league again? Um, Yes, if you only go up a certain amount, like if you start near the top of Silver League, you go up to, gold 3 or maybe 2 or whatever it is, and then you drop back to Silver League, then yes, you'll be competing for the Silver League leaderboard again the next season. So only the players that move up more than that will get pushed up into the next league leaderboard in the next season. So, and we'll see. But and so generally, right, if you're a player and that's kind of your area, you could potentially compete for the same leaderboard every season, sort of how it was in the past. So that's not. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's fine. And the only if you really kind of move up a lot, like that means you don't belong in that leaderboard. So if you just go from the top of silver up to low gold, then yeah, you kind of still it makes sense that you're in the silver leaderboard. You're competing against the best silver players every season. But all that being said, we're going to put it out. We're going to try it. It's entirely possible that certain things don't work out. Maybe it should be based upon your rating at the end of the previous season rather than where it starts. We kind of went back and forth on that. Uh, kind of landed right now on the starting rating as your leaderboard. It's possible that may not be the best. We'll see. Um, Comment from Fat Jimmy. Splinterlands is incredibly expensive at higher levels. That was the main reason leagues were good as originally designed. Players could play in the place they can afford to play. and that was a feature and not a bug, there will always be players wanting to move up out of lower pools. Well, so I don't. I This is a comment that comes up a lot. Maybe I'm not understanding it, but because we took out the leaderboards, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden everyone's playing in champion. Like if you have lower level cards, you are still playing in lower level leagues. So I don't understand. So you are everyone's still playing in the place that they can afford to play, right? They upgrade their cards or they get their cards to whatever level and then they play, and whatever rating level they get to roughly a 50% win rate is where they stay. So that it's the difference is that if you really should not be in silver because you should really be in a higher league, you can't just say, "Nope, I want to stay in silver," and play against all the silver people, right? That's what changes. Everyone still is in the place where they can afford to play. And again, if people in lower leagues are getting matched up against max level decks a large amount of the time, it could certainly happen, every once in a while for different reasons. But if it's happening a significant amount of the time, then there's a different problem. And I don't think like putting in caps is on the cards is the right way to fix that problem. So the second part of the question is forcing players up now forces them to spend money they might not have, incentivizing them to quit instead of putting more money in. We don't force anyone anywhere. If you win battles, your rating goes up. That should be a good thing. You get more rewards. I don't know why someone would be like, "Oh man, this is like so horrible. I went up to a higher rating that gives me more rewards." And if you start losing a lot in that rating because you can't compete there, then you'll move back down. So I'm sorry. I feel like maybe I'm being dense, but I don't get these particular comments that I have heard a lot of people making. Um, Players can spend however much they want to spend. They get whatever much it doesn't have to be a lot, and they'll just compete in at that level of play. But there's always, like, if they do get more cards, it always benefits them. You know, it's not like, oh, I was able to get this max level card, but I'm only in bronze, so I don't want it. It doesn't help me. Like it's there's not, it will help them. You'll move up. So I don't know. That's again my opinion on these type of things. Question from YouTube: When plushies? Yeah, there's certainly. I really like the physical stuff. I have all sorts of obviously every all the Splinterlands physical stuff, but I like to collect stuff. We got all sorts of stuff in our house. Uh, y- but my wife is not a huge fan of all this stuff. I would love to do more physical things for Splinterlands, but clearly it is not our priority or something we want to spend any time or money on right now. But one day, hopefully later this year, we'll be in a position to do more Splinter Fests and more plushies and more other cool things, physical and digital. Because I really like that stuff. Um, Question: At what Bitcoin price will you feel comfy? Um, I don't know if that's a question for me personally feeling comfy or the company. I'll take it as the company. Um, I don't. I mean, so the company does own Bitcoin. So Bitcoin price going up is helpful for us, but I don't think it's really just specifically Bitcoin. I think it's just the crypto market in general, and it typically seems to go in cycles, and those cycles are typically led by Bitcoin. So if the Bitcoin price goes up a lot, typically some amount of people that have Bitcoin sell it or start putting it into other things, one of which will likely be Splinterlands. So I don't know if I have a particular price where it's like, okay, now everything's awesome and we can hire a bunch of people and do Splinterfest and plushies. Um, but I mean, we're certainly not there yet. I think as far as Bitcoin bull runs go, I mean, this is the very, very beginning. Um, you know, Typically if past bull runs are any guide, and I for a lot of reasons think this one could be even much bigger, just considering what's going on in the world, and especially the U.S. not even having gone 2x from the previous cycle high is like not even really getting started. So typically these things happen later in the year in the 4-year cycle. So 2021 things really picked up towards the end of the year. It's 2025 is 4 years later. So we'll see how things look in the second half of this year. I don't have a specific number though. Banana says 69 million. I can confidently say that if Bitcoin goes to 69 million, we'll be in pretty good shape. Um, Heck, with one Bitcoin, I could more than fund the company for quite a while at that price. Um, Question from Cutting Edge: how would you value SPS polls versus formal polls versus formal proposals? That's a good question. I mean, we'll have to see. Peak D did implement SPS polls, which were very useful and effectively kind of do the same thing as proposals, except very few people participated in them. So I think if there was an SPS poll that had similar participation as the proposals, then it's effectively the same thing. Do you want to say something,
I
Investi?
will say Clay's been asking us for a couple months to add SPS polls to in game so people participate in them. We would love to, but as you have heard, we've got like several major projects that we want to get out in the next couple months. So I will apologize to Clay. We will try to get SPS polls added to the site when we have some bandwidth,
Yeah,
and hopefully we'll get
and
more participation.
I agree with that 100%. We have to focus on this stuff. Like I talked about the importance of having a good Conclave Arcana release coupled with the good marketing and promotional campaign. And it's not going to be good if we don't have the onboarding experience and kind of the other things that we're working on. So those have to be higher priority. Unfortunately, there's like a bunch of neat, cool things that we would like to do. And a lot of times some of our developers just get something in their head and just go off and do it in their spare time, and I love to see that happen. So maybe SPS polls will happen, but in the meantime, I guess there's two differences between SPS polls and the formal proposals. One is they wouldn't, I assume, have a cost, or maybe it's just something that only Claiborne can do. I don't know if we want everyone just being able to throw up polls left and right. um, and I guess the second is they probably allow more options. But in the meantime, you know, I think we can use the formal proposal system a bit more as a way to get player feedback. And again, we can work around the cost issue in different ways. So we have something that allows this stake weighted feedback to happen. Um, until we're able to implement SPS polls in the game, so they get uh, more traction. It looks like we have hit the end of questions. Thank you, Ron, for putting that in and for setting up all this. For those of you who don't know, Rondon is behind the scenes making all this happen. I have no idea how to set up all this stuff and the streaming on the different channels and whatnot. But he does, and he's really good at it. He does all the cool little effects with us, our heads and the cards there, and when other people are on, and it switches the creative update and all that stuff. Just want to give a shout out to Ron there for his stuff behind the scenes. Um, uh,
We had one late question from the P Silence on YouTube that I think might be worth just quickly answering, which was if the DAO votes for $2 Conclave Arcana packs, would we do it?
the
Get a
the DAO,
proposal?
the DAO is the one. You guys are doing Conclave Arcana. You guys are hiring us to do it. We are your employees. If the DAO says we pretty much anything, we will do it. So yes, 100%. Now, if it's something ridiculous, I will vote against it, and I will try to encourage others to vote against it, and I will try to convince them of how ridiculous it is. Um, I don't think a change to the pack price is all that ridiculous. I personally don't really agree. I also generally don't participate in the proposals, unless it's something I feel strongly about. But 100%, if if 66+% of the stakeholders or the stake weighted SPS holders vote for something like that, it's not even a question because you guys are hiring us to do it. It's like hiring a company to build something for you, and you tell them what you want to build, and they say, "Nope, we're doing it a different way. You should fire us if that's the case." Um, since we took, I see there's one late question from Bojangles also. So since we took a different late question, I'll take his also. So it's, can we reconsider the SPS proposals when they get approved? The company does it versus gameplay proposals, including card balancing. It's a suggestion. For number two, for example, if 60% of people agree with the Nidhogger proposal, and if that's feedback to the team, then maybe the team should still make the changes. Yeah, I mean, I would say currently the proposal system is set up that, you need 2/3 to do it. I would be a little hesitant to just say, "Eh, it was close, so we're going to do it." I'm trying to put this more on the proposal system. So in that case, I would say if the community should make a proposal that says maybe for card balancing or for certain changes, you need a smaller threshold for it to happen. So I know this isn't how it happened in the past, but I'm trying to, in fact, learn from our mistakes or do things better. Um, so I just think, I'm going to take a whole lot of crap if I say, well, we have this proposal system that's a certain way that everyone seems to have agreed to, and now we're just going to kind of do something differently um, because we feel like it. And I know, Bojangles, that this is your proposal and it's very important to you, and I apologize. I would say talk with the people that disagree with it. And potentially try again and see if we can get to the amount. And as far as gameplay proposals and card balancing being a suggestion, really I'm trying to move this to not a suggestion. Like if 66+% of the votes go that way, like we're gonna do it. So I'm going more to the path of putting more to the community and not just having it be a suggestion box, but having it be like this is what the players want. It's the players' game. We got to do this. Okay. I don't see any more late questions, so we're gonna stop it there. Um, Yeah, I'll say there's been a lot of differing opinions, I will say, and a lot of people expressing those opinions, which is great. I highly encourage everyone to just try to express those opinions as respectfully as possible. I felt like some of the times they've been getting into personal attack territory, and that just isn't good for my health and stress levels. It just doesn't help anyone. So just because myself or the team disagrees with you, it doesn't mean that we are not listening. And I'm open to continuing to have the conversations. Just because maybe you asked a question, we answered that we disagree with something. Uh, you know, continue to try to convince us. Um, maybe it will work, maybe it won't. But the number one way to get something to happen, and I highly encourage people to start looking at the proposal system. So if it's like you guys think something, we disagree, and you really feel like nope, the community really feels this way, you now have a way to definitively prove it to us, and we cannot ignore that. And I don't intend to ignore that. So I highly encourage people to kind of to take ownership, take responsibility, and don't just yell at me or the team about different things. Buy more SPS, uh, stake your claim, convince all the other stakeholders um, what you want, and then you can make it happen. Um, but aside from that, I think we have an actual really good plan uh, for a really good engaging onboarding experience that can also turn into a fun engaging experience for everybody else in the game, and something we've been kind of talking about and wanting to have for years and years in the campaign mode. It's happening. We're starting work on it. We have really experienced marketing people that I've mentioned that are working on putting together a comprehensive plan of how we go out and get a ton of people in here, and not only just get them in the door, but have them have a great experience and stick around and become players. This is all leading up to the next set launch, which we're obviously timing together on purpose. Um, So again, a pretty exciting stuff that's coming up in the next few months. Things that kind of we've never done before. Um, and I think is clearly the best way to take this thing to a whole new level. Like I said, if we can even get a few hundred new like serious active players putting money in this ecosystem, that can make a big difference. And then that stuff sort of sets off a cycle where if things start going well, um, it gets more people excited. People see it, token prices go up, etc., and then more people come, and it can kind of snowball. So that's exactly what we're trying to do. I will see everyone in a month for our update in February. And yeah, that's it. Have a great night. Anything you want to add, Investi?
Just thanks to everybody that puts their feedback in the suggestions and UX channel. If you do have suggestions that you'd like to submit to the team of minor improvements or ideas for the game without doing a proposal, that would probably be the place to put it. And thanks to the support team and all the devs for all the work they're doing. And have a good night.
See everybody. Talk to you next month.
This is a story, the one where we will not accept defeat. This is a and hope is lost, when your darkest days aren't saved by the dawn, we bring the light to help guide the way. We are with you. We are the Rift Watchers.